Hi everybody, welcome back. So I just finished the audiobook of Alias Grace and also previously before that also finished the Netflix TV series. So that got me inspired to do a painting of the main character, Grace Marks. I love watching historical dramas, especially all the new ones that are coming out, and Netflix has a bunch of them, so that's how I found out this show. But instead of just discussing the TV show, I want to also discuss the book and also the real life events which inspired the TV show and the book. So let me give you a background of what the story of Alias Grace is about. It's about a young Irish immigrant who came to Canada in the Toronto area with her family, and she was a maid, and she was accused and convicted of murdering the master of the home, the ranch, and also the housekeeper of the home, who the master of the home was having an affair with. And this was in the 1840s, so this was in the mid 19th century during the Victorian time. She was convicted, and it became a sensational story because she was only 16 at the time. Now, the main person who was convicted and actually hanged for the crime was the other field hand, the other servant. His name was James McDermott. And the thing is, both of they were both considered liars by the court, because they had like several conflicting testimonies, like during the trial. In her case, after the trial, she had like three different testimonies that were different, and James McDermott had two different testimonies. At the very end, he claimed that Grace was the one who actually strangled and killed Nancy, the housekeeper. And as a result of the trials, as I said before, James McDermott was hanged for the crime, and Grace was convicted and was also sentenced to death. But due to her age and her sex, because she was a female, many people didn't believe like a young female, and she was also beautiful, which when there's a young beautiful woman involved in a crime, either a victim or perpetrator of the crime, there's always more publicity about it. But eventually they originally sentenced her to death, but due to the factors I just mentioned above, they commuted her sentence to life in prison. So it was supposed to be, I'm not sure how they did it back then in Canada, but it was supposed to be life, but due to numerous people helping her throughout trying to appeal her case, they eventually pardoned her after 30 years. So after she was pardoned, I believe the warden and his daughter, I believe, they helped her get a home, or find a home somewhere in New York, and from there on there was no record afterwards. So maybe she changed her name or something, but there's no record after that event. So that's all we know of the official story. By the way, the image is of Grace washing a nightgown that's been bloodied during an event on the show. And what I did was gave the image a more of a magenta and red tone. You can see here I gave this the red wash in the background to, because the theme, the whole TV show and book is basically murder, so I gave more of a red tone to the image. Well, they actually have a lot of red and pink in the show as well, but not like what I did over here. And also I added some creative license, some blood splatter on her apron to make the theme pop out more for my painting. Okay, spoilers ahead, everybody. So I'm going to discuss the TV show and the books now. First of all, the design and the production value and the costume design, especially in the sets, they're really well done. It looks, I mean, I guess nobody would know, but it looks, just going by the old pictures, what everybody sees, it looks like exactly like the mid 19th century, the way the clothing and just the whole set that they used. In fact, they even used the real set of the penitentiary in Canada, in Toronto. I believe it's still intact, but it's closed down. So that was like really cool. They actually, went to a bunch of the original locations, because this is based around Toronto, so most of the filming was around there. And another interesting point is that the actress Sarah Gadon and Margaret Atwood and also the writer of the TV show were all Canadian, which is because this event took place in Canada, so it was like a big Canadian production, was really good, since it's part of their history. It's like one of the big events in their history, so that's great that they did everything in Canada. I was born in Canada as well, so yeah, so go Canada. Now, as I mentioned previously, during the records, they were never really able to determine the actual truth. I mean, other than they know that they were McDermott and James McDermott and Grace Marks were involved with the murder, but they never really found out to what degree that Grace was actually involved. So the book, since Margaret Atwood did take the most of the facts, but the facts were conflicting due to their testimony. So what she did with the book and the TV show was really close to the book, by the way, really close. I mean, there's a couple characters that were condensed, and some stories that were eliminated because even though it's a mini series for one season, that books would have a lot more information to put in. It's really hard to do into a TV show or a movie, but they did a really good job with the TV show. So the main narrative device that Margaret Atwood used to tell the story was kind of amnesia, which was also in the actual trial, but also kind of a split personality kind of issue, which was kind of discussed in the I believe was kind of discussed in the actual events, but it was more people speculating, but it wasn't actually involved in the trial. The only thing was involved in the trial was them saying that Grace Marks had amnesia and she couldn't remember. So we don't know if she was just lying or it was actually true. So Margaret Atwood used that as the main driving force behind the story of her amnesia was causing her a split personality, or that's what I thought of it, because there's also the TV show also kind of it was kind of a little bit in the books too, but the TV show kind of made it like her friend that died on the show was kind of inhabited her body through her spirit, because there's a theme of spiritualism going on in the story as well, because that was like a really big thing with seances and stuff in the mid 19th century. The main thing that was left out was the whole side story of Simon and his landlady, and at one point she tried to plot with Simon to kill her deadbeat husband so she could run away with him, which parallels the whole thing with with Grace's story. So he was kind of going through the same thing as her, and it gives you an idea why he was so stressed when he came back to the meetings with Grace. Another part I especially missed in the TV show was in the book, Jeremiah's story as the fake doctor. That was introduced really early into the book, and that kind of like that the whole portion was kind of like woven through the whole story. Now obviously in the TV show they couldn't do that because they would give Jeremiah away that he was already there faking as the doctor. But at the very end though, after she gets married to Jamie, she has a brief encounter with Jeremiah again, and they kind of nod to each other, and I really wish they added that into the TV show, but oh well. And another little scene they added kind of parallels what happened to her mom, because she at the very end she thought she may be pregnant, or that she may have a tumor like her mom, so she said she couldn't tell, she was hopeful that she was going to have the baby. And that would make a nice hopeful story for her chapter and her family story, which is kind of sad because you don't know what happens to the rest of her family. I could talk a lot more about this TV show, but you know, I don't want to go over 10 minutes. Hey, if you guys like this, make sure you comment below and make sure you subscribe and like as well. Okay, see you next week. Bye bye.